Bob's a stronger man than I. It keeps me awake at night, but it's true.
Hey, welcome. Not in the garage today, but we're in the machine shop workshop. Bob's not here, so he's delegated Luke to do the job. And that DB silencer that you're seeing on my socials, we're going to go be fitting that.
It's not moving.
It should wiggle off. Bob managed to wiggle it off the other day.
Bob's a stronger man than I. It keeps me awake at night, but it's true. Result.
Here's the little bleeder. There's not a lot to him.
No. Even less after we're done.
Scrubbing.
That one was easier. Little pipe. So first pipe is done. We've shortened it about that much. It looks quite excessive compared to the valve there. However, because this is a slip join, it went inside of there, so a lot of it was hidden. So really what we're looking at is the length of the slip joint itself, because all of that was sitting in there. I worked off the witness marks. Do we still see them a little bit? You can sort of see them on here. The scratches, the witness marks of the previous pipe. Use that as my datum there. So that means we've cut right up to where the slip joint was contacting there. So this is now a fresh surface to go off of, and now we need to take the valve diameter off of this side, which, as we can see there, it's like it was made for it. Using a zip tie here, nice and tight, to give me a good area to basically trace against. Looking for an equal spacing here, because just on the inside, obviously there's a bit of a lip. That lip comes out further than the weld. So if I was to use the weld as a reference point, what I'd basically be doing is cutting into the baffling there, how it's sort of clamped in. It could mean that things are loose inside. So I'm gonna play it a little bit safe, come a little bit further away from where that join is, which is on the other side of that zip tie. Hence why I've done that, just through the sort of feeling it out. A lot of the times feeling it out is better than just trying to see where things are in relation. Your fingers are a lot more sensitive to this kind of stuff. So yeah, gonna mark a line, cut it, and then we're ready to start tacking. Bob could do that freehand, but I'm not Bob. Not yet. Using the depth part of a digital vernier, just to measure the depth of there. It's about 39 mil in there. My line's about 33 mil, so we've got about 6 mil spare, which is pretty much perfect. So, time to cut. Needs a bit of cleaning up, however, you can see that shelf in there, which is what we were trying to avoid. So we've got still a nice bit of meat there to weld onto without the potential of disturbing anything that close. Because if I end up making that warp due to the heat or something like that, might come a little bit loose, something like that. I don't know how specifically it was constructed, so I'm always playing it on the safe side, putting less in than I have to.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, imagine that looks like, is that holding like the packing?
Yeah, that's the packing for the baffling. It could be a press fit, it could be welded in. There's sort of, it's hard because it's obscured near the end. I can't tell, so I'm not going to make any assumptions, because when you assume, something happens. I don't know what.
Not the right thing.
Yeah.
Austin Racing, maybe you can look at supplying the cans with these on.
So looking at the castings in there, looks like the valve is going to open that way. So I want it that way for flow. We need electronics to be readily available. So we've now tacked up across 3 points, just sort of triangulating it, can't twist or anything like that. We'll put it back on the bike, see where we want the exhaust can, get that all fitted up, and then when we're all happy with it, we'll tack it all up, get it on the table, and then that means I can kind of just do it all at once. I need to be sort of quite aware here because, as you can see, it's quite a thick titanium casting there, and then that's extremely thin. So what we're dealing with is quite a dissimilar distance, or what we're dealing with is quite a dissimilar thickness. So I'm going to have to put more emphasis of heat on the thicker part, which once again, for a quick little tack job, doesn't matter, but for doing the actual thing, I want to be nice and comfortable, sat down, because it's going to require some concentration. So we're going to keep a little bit of distance here, because we've got the swing arm here, movement of the suspension. Things can skip around, so we're going to emphasise a little bit more having it further towards that sort of outboard than being inboard. Angle-wise, we've got a little bit of play, but it's sitting quite nicely over the existing casting, which is nice. So I think something like that.
Yeah, that's looking pretty much as it was.
There you go, it's welded.
Yeah, Jay! Right, so now we've disconnected the battery because we don't want any shenanigans going on when the welding starts. So I'm probably stating the obvious here. What you're doing now is you're just tacking the silencer, the end can on.
Yes, so we're going to tack the end can on in position, get some nice strong tacks on there so it doesn't move when I weld it. Idea being, if we just kind of make some assumptions of where things are going to sit, it might require some more chopping. So we've tacked up this original plate, or the original tube, to the variable valve. Idea being, when we weld that, it might move a little bit. So if we keep everything all together, it adds a lot more strength to it, it's less likely to move. Also just sort of adds more heat sinking ability, so it stops the part overheating basically. If I was to weld that original part just down here with the valve, there's not actually that much material, so it could overheat, and if it overheats, it might transfer into the electronics on the valve, things like that. So by adding the end can on, all of a sudden there's a huge amount more mass to kind of absorb the heat and spread it out.
Yeah.
It just keeps things a bit safer basically, and also gives us a good idea of where we're going, because when I sit down, what I'm going to be doing is what's called back purging. It'll make more sense when I do it, but basically we're going to fill the inside of this can with argon gas. So argon is inert, it stops oxygen getting to the weld. What it'll basically mean is it's a really nice clean weld, and it kind of helps the weld it kind of helps the weld flow smoother, gives it some support almost from the inside as well, stops it dropping out, and keeps it cooler as well. So we'll be doing that. It's basically all just positives, but to do that, it requires some setup, so it makes more sense to have it all tacked. I can weld it all together, sit down, zone in for 20 minutes, and just do my thing rather than stop starting it. So yeah, so we put 2 little tacks on it. Those tacks just to stop it. 1 tack could be enough, but it could still twist. 2 means it can't twist out. As you could see, access for that was quite difficult. And because I'm welding such dissimilar thicknesses of material, I'm trying to be really careful that I'm not blowing holes in the sort of titanium exhaust. That'll be enough for now. What we do is remove it all as a single piece, get it up on the table, back purge it, weld it. All I've done there is put some foil tape down the bottom of it. Reason being, when we come to put the argon into it for the back purge, we want it to sort of hold in the tube a little bit. If I keep that end completely open, all that will happen is the argon will flow completely out. We do want it to be able to leak a little bit, which I've just crumpled that because it's not going to be airtight, but it's enough to build sort of a buffer in there that it will hold a tiny bit of pressure just to stop it completely flowing out. So yeah, and then I'll put the end into here and seal that up. And then the idea is then, like I said, we've got argon on the inside, argon on the outside. The titanium is protected from oxygen because titanium oxidizes really poorly when welded and will make our lives misery. Cool. Let's get welding.
Oh, this is a whole complete new learning curve. I've no idea on welding and stuff, and I'm just amazed at what's going on here. To the fact that I'm sometimes forgetting to press start on the camera. Luke's a very good teacher. If you ever want to learn to weld, come down to the machine shop because they do welding classes.
I like it.
So this is pretty much where you will learn to weld. All these welding machines down here, which I'm not going to pretend for 1 minute to know anything about. Is that a particular technical drawing there?
Yeah. That's how the arc comes out of the TIG torch. Right, so that's all welded. As you may have seen, there was a few sort of tight spots in sort of access, things like that. This first side, because it was flush, welded really nicely. I'm really happy with that. This other side, because it was kind of a bit staggered and a bit crooked and things, sometimes it was welding and it was sort of next to each other, other times it was on top, sometimes it was over top a lot, sometimes it was over top not a lot. There's a lot of sort of variety to it, and in those times it's really hard to sort of lay a consistent weld, but the main thing I'm looking at is the colour of the weld. It's still like a really nice straw colour, which shows we've not overheated the titanium, which is exactly what we want. So yeah, I think she'll be mint. So we'll wait for it to cool down, get it in the bike, see if it works.
So that's closed. A little bit of a difference.
Yeah. It's pretty much as loud as it was before as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So there we have it closed and open. That sounds a little bit deeper than what it was before.
It might be where the flap is just changing the exhaust geometry somehow. Exhaust stuff is magic for the most part. It just makes a noise or it don't.
Yeah.
Keep moving it.
Cool.
Nice.
Thank you.
There you go. Right, let's get you on.
That sounds all right, that is, yeah.
I was thinking the other day when you said it, if you went past say a horse, you know, out swim step, stabbing point,
Yeah.
Stops you having to turn your engine off completely.
happy as well.
Right then, that's it. That's the exhaust welded on, thanks to Bob, thanks to Luke and all the team here at the machine shop. Get him in there.
Either way.
Fantastic job. Now, to make my way back home and play around with the wiring. So, back home in the garage, it's the following day because the weather was crap, bike needed cleaning up, and I just couldn't be bothered to do any more to it. So, here we are. Pretty much all I've got to do now, I say all, is wire this harness in. Straightforward, 2 connections to the batteries, 1 to the servo valve itself, and then this one. I'm going to position this little button here that says DB, on the handlebars near the throttle side. Potentially maybe get some kind of cover there because obviously that's going to be exposed. And I think these are designed for bikes with a fairing where you know potentially drill a hole with a fairing and pop the button in. It's a naked bike. I'm not drilling holes anywhere. I haven't a clue where we're going or how we're going to route it, so let's just get on with it. So obviously we need to go from here down to here towards the battery, and you've got this plastic shroud here on the tank. Yeah, I don't really know how this fits on, so let's just go. Right, so that's the 2 bolts at the front undone, so I'm hoping the tank will just lift. This bracket here, which is stopping the tank from coming up, looks like I might have to take the battery out to get to a bolt down here. Well, I'm not going to do that. What we do have is enough room here. Now I've taken that bit of trim. Let's get some lighting on there. Lighting's not very good this side. That was held on with 2 clips there. So I thought I'd be a clever sod and remove this headlight assembly area. These 2 bolts here, there's 2 around the other side, and that just drops the headlights down, hoping I could get into here where these cables run through. But obviously that's the airbox intake. You know, it comes down here and you've got the intake here. So these cables here are in a proper, well, I mean it's well designed, but you're not squeezing anything down there unless you're taking the airbox off, the headlight assembly off, and see if you can get through there. So I believe my best bet is underneath here, underneath the top yoke, go in here. Right, as expected, this has been a little bit of a pain in the ass with routing. Down to the servo, it's fine, plenty of cable down to there, but there's the power cable, and here's the battery over here. So I'm going to have to extend it. I've got some similar gauge wire, but not the same colour. So I'm going to have to use these terminals, don't know if you can see that there, those terminals there, and put some heat shrink over them, and extend the power leads. Right then, we're finally all done. And that was a little bit of a palaver going on. Let me show you what we've had to do. Right, well, as you say, let me show you what we've had to do. You've pretty much seen it. So we had to extend the power cables. I did connect them directly to the Thunderbox, but the Thunderbox only becomes active when the engine's running. I want to be able to open and close the valve before the engine is running for obvious reasons. So I've pretty much wired the neutral in, pretty much directed to the battery. I've put the neutral to the Thunderbox, so it's all, it's all one. And what I've done with my Noco trickle charger, yeah, you guys probably won't like this, but I've Scotch clipped it instead of trying to. I don't have a ring terminal to terminate to add it to the power. So what I've done, Scotch clipped it onto the Noco, so it's not Scotch clipped to the actual bike harness. Just see the little spring there moving around. So we had to run the cables up here, wide the harness through there. I couldn't get it through the other section through there, like I showed you earlier on. I did a bit more electrical tape there because you could see the red and black cable, power cables, and then tried to make it as factory as I could with it routing under here, leading out to there, and that enumerates quite nicely. What I've just noticed though, paint on the button is already flaking, which isn't too good. So I've just messaged the guys about that. Let's see what they say, but that's not it's only had a few presses. So I'm going to fire it up. It's in the garage, so it's going to sound pretty loud in there. So the baffle is closed. So if I shine a light down there, you can see the baffle's closed, and then open, and obviously you'll hear a difference. So there we have it, the DB silencer is all fitted. A little bit of a to and a throw in, but there you go. We'll see how it goes. Got to take it out for a potential good run. Keep pressing that button and swapping it over. But anyway, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching so much. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Please give us a like, give us a comment, and even better, subscribe if you haven't already done so. It really helps. Makes me think these videos are worth doing. So anyway, take care, ride safe.